Good morning, everybody. How are you today? It's Wednesday morning, April 15th. We're in the middle of April already. And this morning, I'm excited to have a conversation about why so many cybersecurity and B2B companies are rethinking advertising. There have been a lot of changes in, uh, you know, advertising, Google ads, social media ads. Um, and it's becoming more and more competitive online. And, we're all trying to, of course, get the biggest ROI for the money that we spend in marketing. So today we're going to unpack a little bit about that, about what's going on with advertising, and is there a new way to think about how to reach our customers online, either with digital ads or even without digital ads? How can we better reach our customers in this highly competitive online environment that we are all part of, that we're all experiencing? I know if you're like me, coming into the office in the morning and there's like 5 million emails in your inbox. Well, guess what? It becomes a little bit of information overload because, we're just being constantly bombarded with messages. We're seeing messages online. If we check our Facebook, if we check our LinkedIn, if we, go search on Google, there's a bombardment of advertising. And the human mind, we weren't probably really designed to deal with that level of information and stimulation coming in. Evolutionarily, human beings, we were out walking in the plains and the forests, and we were seeing trees and interacting with the people around us. And, we weren't being constantly bombarded with information from all angles every single day. So things are becoming more competitive online. More information, more advertising, and our customers' attention with to pay attention to all of these messages, messages coming in constantly all the time. Be what we're already interested in, what we're already looking for. Because if it's not information that we're looking for, then it's not important right now. And so we can ignore it if it's not relevant. And so, how do we make the information more relevant so that our customers pay attention? Or how do we serve that information up to them at a point when it's the right time, when they are looking for it, when it's a message that they want to hear, that they're ready to respond to? So today we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And if this conversation is relevant to you, if this is a useful discussion, please like and share with your network. If this is something that you have questions about, or you want to know more about, or you are wondering how it would work for you, please drop a comment, drop your questions in the comments. I'll be back here to check the comments and respond to any of your questions or comments later on. And I really appreciate you hopping in here with me. I'm going to be live here every Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. Sorry, this morning I was a little delayed, just network problems, I think. And my things just kept crashing. So I'm not sure if that's, you know, some sort of network thing, but I will shoot for 11 a.m. And please do hop in with me. We're going to be having conversations about marketing topics for lead generation, lead conversion, because, you know, it's not just enough to get the leads, but, you know, how do you turn those leads into customers and turn that into revenue and business for your company? All right. So my name is Laura Camrath. I am the founder and CEO of Zebra Marketing, and we work with B2B companies who have something incredible to bring to their market, but maybe their primary business is not marketing, and so they're looking for better ways to bring what they do and how they serve their customers to their market so that they can help more people and solve the problems that they solve. So we help people build systems so they can have predictable leads and hockey stick growth month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year. And if that's something that your company is looking to do right now, I'd love to have a conversation. All right, so let's jump in. All right, yay, everything worked. Okay, so today we're gonna talk about why many cybersecurity firms and other B2B companies are rethinking advertising and what the smartest demand gen teams are doing instead. A strategic breakdown for marketing leaders ready to move beyond clicks and chase real pipeline. Okay. Hang on a second. Just, okay. So a lot of us just think, okay, well, if we want to get more leads, then we just need to sort of dump more money in the advertising bucket. We just need more ad budget, increase the ad budget, reach more people. Some sort of percentage of those people will convert into leads. They will respond to the ads, and then we will have more leads. The promise, scale your ad budget, reach more buyers, fill the funnel, watch revenue follow. That's sort of how most cybersecurity and B2B companies are thinking about it. We just put more money into the bucket, and you have to have more money to get more leads. But the reality is that, we're not always seeing more leads when we dump more money into the bucket. And so budgets are climbing, we're spending more, our impressions are accumulating, more and more people are being served up those ads or receiving those ads. But, we may not have that translating into actually more leads and more good qualified leads, people who are ready to do business with us. And so, this becomes a challenge, because, our marketing budgets may be limited, and we can't just spend unlimited amounts of money just hoping that more leads are going to come in. And, that more good qualified, ready to buy leads and not, tire kickers or people who aren't really the right market for us or clients for us. And so, this becomes a challenge for us because, you can't just keep spending money and hoping and praying that more business comes in. And if it's not really scaling and converting to more business, then we need to think in a different way. Does this sound, across mid to large size cybersecurity or B2B firms, the same painful pattern keeps showing up quarter after quarter. ad costs are rising. We have increases in cost per click. CPC is getting higher. We have to spend more for every person who clicks on our ads because they're becoming more competitive. More people are saying, oh, we need to get into online advertising because that seems to be where it's at. And the budgets are growing. We have to spend more money. We're dumping more money into the advertising bucket. But of course, when it comes down to accountability and ROI and what results are we getting out of this, we may not be seeing actually better results just because we are spending more money. So it may be that, as you spend more money on ads or you dump more money in the ad budget, that the traffic maybe does go up and the impressions are strong and the team looks busy, but there's not actually more leads coming in. And maybe there's not more qualified, good prospective customers coming in. And so despite all the activity, all the budget, all the spending, the qualified opportunities they're not materializing at the rate the spend should justify. So if you've had that happen, drop a 1 in the chat. Something doesn't add up. So if you're doing more activity and it's not producing more results, the input is increasing, the budget, the clicks, the impressions, the traffic, but the outputs aren't keeping pace. It's not just a budget problem, it's a strategy problem. So if you're seeing more activity is not equal to more results, the gap between effort and outcome is widening and it's accelerating. This is becoming more of a problem because, like I said, people's attention span is just really diluted now. There's so much information out there. There's so much bombarding us all the time. The average click or the average visit to a website is now like less than 15 seconds. And if you think about 15 seconds, that's like kind of like having the attention span of a goldfish. And so if you need to be able to convert a customer in a time frame that is like the attention span of a goldfish, it becomes a big issue. It becomes very challenging because they're not there long enough to really get a clue, get a feeling for what it is you do and the depth of how you can help them in the span of time that they might be willing to spend learning about it if they click an ad. And so if they're not really spending enough time, then you're spending money on ads that potentially are not converting because it's just not relevant to them right now, or they don't have time right now, or, all kinds of reasons. What most cybersecurity companies believe and other B2B companies, if we just drive more traffic to the website, then the pipeline will follow. We just need to get more people to the website and then we'll have more customers. We'll have more impressions, more clicks, more conversations. And that is just a numbers game. But this assumption underpins the majority of demand generation strategies in cybersecurity and B2B. It's intuitive, it's measurable, and it's the reason most marketing teams default to paid media as their primary growth lever. But this logic has a critical flaw, and it's costing firms millions in wasted spend. So what actually happens when you stress test the traffic equals pipeline assumption against real data? A very different picture emerges. The cost increases. Cost per clicks, CPCs in the cybersecurity category, are among the highest in B2B SaaS. As more vendors compete for the same keywords, auction prices climb relentlessly, regardless of your quality score, and conversion rates stay similar. More traffic doesn't improve conversions. It's, if the underlying offer, timing, or buyer fits, isn't right or isn't right now, then scaling spend just amplifies waste. So, when we spend money on ads, we're usually just, we're putting the ads out there in the hopes that a certain percentage of the people who receive the ads are going to convert into leads. But it's not always the case that we just spend more and then just more leads flow in. So, competition intensifies. Every major cybersecurity vendor is running the same playbook. The more crowded the ad auction, the harder it becomes to win attention, let alone trust. And, trust is a big thing in B2B companies. It's a big purchase for a big company, and they want a partner who they know they can rely on, who is going to do a good job. So, it really does matter how we are setting up our pipeline. And, if we're all kind of trying to do it the same way, it just, makes it more difficult to compete. So it creates a cascade of problems, frustration. Teams are working harder. They're, doing more, but they're seeing diminishing returns. And so morale suffers when the effort doesn't translate to outcomes. People are just getting frustrated. They think they just have to spend more. And, the instinctive response is, if you're seeing a flat pipeline, oh, well, we probably need to dump more money into the ad budget. And, this isn't always the best solution. And then uncertainty. Leadership loses confidence in the channel. Oh, the ads aren't working. We're spending a lot of money. We can't just keep increasing the budget. What do we need to do? And, the marketing team comes under fire. What's going on here? And of course, that can lead to further frustration. And so then the budget conversations can become tense and defensive. And of course, management always is going to want ROI for the money that they're spending. And that's, of course, very important. We all want to make sure that the money we're spending on marketing translates to real business, and that we're getting the most for the money that we spend. And then unpredictable pipeline. Without a reliable system for identifying demand, forecasting becomes guesswork and quarters become volatile. Maybe it's just the ad budget we're spending, it's not having consistent results. So this isn't a problem. It's a visibility problem. And most cybersecurity and B2B firms are optimizing the wrong variable. They're obsessing over click-through rates and cost per click while missing the most important signal of all. Who is already actively researching solutions like yours right now without ever clicking your ads? The buyers are out there. The demand exists. The problem is you can't see it. So you can't engage it at the right moment, when it's relevant, when they are ready to pay attention. Buyers don't start ads. Before a cybersecurity or B2B buyer ever clicks an ad or fills out a form, they've already done significant research. Understanding this journey is the first step to intercepting it earlier. Notice I said intercepting it. So an interested buyer is already, they know they have a problem and they're looking for a solution. And what do you do when you are looking for a solution? When you have a problem, you go out and you start researching. You want to find out, understand the full nature of the problem that you have and what the best way of solving that problem is. And you want to find that out before you probably even decide, okay, the next step is, well, who is the best person to help me solve this problem in this way? and who can do this the best for me. And so the buyers go out and they're researching quietly. They don't put up a big banner that says, "Hey, I am looking for cybersecurity services." They quietly go out there and they are just looking to find out more about what to do about this. So they go online. They are trying to identify the nature of their problem, fully understand their problem, and then figure out how to best solve the problem, and then figure out who is the best company partner to help them solve that problem. So they're consuming content, reports, case studies, thought leadership, all shape buyer perception, often without the vendor ever knowing they were evaluated. You may not know they went and read one of your case studies or went to LinkedIn and looked at your business page or blah, blah, blah. They compare vendors. They go to review sites like G2, Gartner Peer Insights, Reddit communities, and they start doing some of their primary research long before a vendor website is visited. And then they evaluate their options. By the time a buyer actually reaches out or clicks an ad, their shortlist is often already formed. You may already be competing from behind. So without ever having talked to you, they may have decided that another company is their number one, but they still want to find out a little more about what you do. So now you're competing to catch up. You're trying to catch up in that equation. When maybe if you would have been in their conversation earlier, you could have shaped their decision-making process. So where do companies lose the deal? The timing mismatch between where buyers start and where vendors engage is one of the most expensive gaps in B2B demand generation. So in stage one, your buyer starts here. They're doing anonymous web browsing. They're searching keywords. They're reviewing site visits. And they are having conversations with their peers, talking to their network. Hey, what did you do in this situation? Does anyone have any recommendations? They are, doing these things weeks or months before they actually make a purchase or even reach out to a vendor. And then in stage two, that's where you might become aware of their interest. So in stage two, after they've already been browsing and looking and researching and making up their minds about what they want to do, then they click an ad. Then they become a lead. Then they fill out a form. And at this point, it's kind of like the Titanic hitting the iceberg. All the Titanic could see was the little bitty top of the iceberg, perhaps, and underneath the water there was this big, huge, hulking chunk of ice that they never saw. And the same with buyer behavior. Most of the buyer behavior that's going on is underneath the water. You're not seeing it. You're not seeing it until that little bit that pops up above the water. And so you are kind of missing out on a lot of the buying process, the decision-making process, and you don't have the opportunity to influence that. So, this can become like a lost opportunity, competitive disadvantage. And the click, is at the most competitive and expensive moment. So like at the point where they're ready to click, they've probably really already made up their mind, or they have a pretty good idea of what they want to do already. So that gap between early research and first click is where deals are won and lost, and most vendors aren't even in the room. So what it results in is you're competing too late. Paid advertising inserts your brand into the buyer journey at the single worst moment when competition, cost, and buyer skepticism are all at their peak. It's the most crowded moment. Every competitor is bidding on the same high intent keywords. Standing out in a paid auction is harder and more expensive than ever. And most expensive moment, cybersecurity keywords routinely command 30 to 80 or more dollars cost per click. You're paying premium prices to interrupt a buyer who may have already decided who they want to work with. And most competitive moment at the point of the click, the buyer is evaluating multiple vendors simultaneously. Trust and relationship haven't been established. So, what do high performers do differently? The most effective demand generation teams in cybersecurity have fundamentally shifted their model, not by spending more, but by engaging earlier. The old approach was wait for buyers to raise their hand via a click or a form fill or give you a call, and then compete alongside every other vendor for attention at the most expensive moment. And then the smarter approach is to identify buyers who are already in motion. They're researching, they're comparing, they're evaluating, and engage them before the competition even knows they exist. It results in a lower cost per qualified conversation. So, and that translates to a lower cost per lead or cost of customer acquisition, because, we call it CAC, the customer acquisition cost becomes lower because the more conversations you have, the more likely you are to close more conversations. So if you're getting more conversations, qualified conversations, that translates to usually more business. You have higher relevance and trust. You are presenting them the information at the point at which they are looking for what you do. It is a match made in heaven. You are serving up relevant information because they are looking for that information. So their attention is going to be more. They're going to pay you more attention than somebody who's not looking for that when it's not the right time. And so it's easier to build trust. And you have more time and more opportunity to build trust because they're still deciding, they're still researching, they're still thinking about what they want to do. So you have the opportunity to influence their decision making process and build that trust. And then you can enjoy a more predictable pipeline because you are serving the information and meeting them at the right point in their buyer journey when they are interested in what you have to say, rather than sort of clobbering them over the head with it when it's not the right time or when they're not looking for it, when it just becomes noise. So what we'll cover today is a strategic framework for cybersecurity marketing leaders who want to build more predictable, efficient pipeline without simply throwing more budget at paid media. Why ad costs are rising. The structural forces making paid media increasingly expensive and competitive. The limits of traffic-based marketing. Why clicks and sessions are the wrong North Star metric for demand generation. And why intent visibility matters. How understanding buyer signals before the click changes your competitive position. And how buyers actually discover vendors. The real journey buyers take and where your brand needs to show up. And then smarter ways to generate pipeline. Practical systems for identifying, engaging, and converting in-market buyers. Why ad costing? This isn't a temporary market fluctuation. It's a structural shift driven by simple economics, and it's accelerating. More advertisers. Cybersecurity is one of the fastest growing B2B categories. New vendors enter the market monthly, all competing for the same buyer attention. There's more competition. Established players are increasing budgets. Private equity-backed vendors are spending aggressively, and the auction floor keeps rising. There's limited attention. Buyers' attention is finite. No amount of additional spend creates more hours in a CISO's day. Supply is capped. Demand is not. And the result, higher costs, same buyers, diminishing marginal returns on every additional dollar of ad spend. Traffic does not necessarily equal intent. The fundamental flaw in traffic based marketing is the assumption that volume predicts outcomes. It doesn't. More clicks doesn't mean more of the right buyers at the right time with the right context to convert. Not more qualified buyers. Traffic scales indiscriminately. Impressions and clicks don't filter for budget authority, business fit, or purchase urgency. You end up paying for curiosity, not intent. So, otherwise known as tire kickers. And then, not better timing. A click tells you someone was curious at a moment in time, not that they're ready to buy or even evaluate. Timing alignment is critical, and traffic metrics are blind to it. So, not higher conversion. If the conversion problem is structural, it's maybe the wrong message, wrong audience, wrong moment. Scaling traffic makes it worse, not better. And so you get more input and the same broken output. And of course, that's not what we want. We want to make sure we're getting the highest ROI for the money that we spend in marketing. Intent changes everything. The signal that a buyer is already in motion. Intent data captures the digital footprints buyers leave as they research solutions. Before they self identify, before they click an ad, before they fill out a form. For cybersecurity marketers, this is the difference between fishing where the fish and casting blindly into an empty lake. Yeah, I actually got my brother-in-law a t-shirt for Christmas that said, the secret to fishing is fish where the fish are. And it's true. We're sending out ads just kind of like out into the ether and hoping that a certain percentage and number of people are going to be interested and click. But what if we could start with the interest, go where the fish are, and then drop the fishing line? Serving up ads to people who have already raised their hand. They are researching, they are interested, and this is relevant to them right now. And then we serve up the ad. It becomes much more effective because the message resonates. They are looking, they are in market, they are in motion. And so we can actually lower the customer acquisition cost because we are fishing where the fish are. They're interested, they're relevant. This is like the right time. And so instead of spending money serving up ads to a whole bunch of people who are probably not interested, or they're just curious, or they just wanted some information but they're not actually looking to buy, it's a much more effective way of running marketing. So what buyer intent signals look like? Buyers don't announce their research. They don't put up a big banner and say, I'm researching, but they leave a trail of behavioral signals across the web that they aggregate and interpret correct. And, when we interpret it correctly, it reveals purchase intent with remarkable precision. So what is that? Oh, search behavior. Keyword searches for competitor names, category terms, solution-specific queries signal active research, often weeks before a vendor is contacted. Website visits. Anonymous visitors browsing pricing pages, feature comparisons, and case studies are signaling evaluation intent, even without submitting a form. So we can actually identify the people who are visiting your website, and before they ever actually fill out a form or give you a call or download something or do anything like that, we can begin marketing to them. So they visit your website. Now they're getting marketing from you. This is not rocket science. I mean, it kind of is rocket science, but, this is like, wow, this is a really, really powerful strategy. So Content consumption. They're downloading pertinent information. They're attending webinars. They're engaging with specific content topics that reveal the buyer's pain point and where they are in their evaluation. So, when you visit a website and it says, hey, can we send you cookies? And you accept. Well, now it knows that you were visiting that website, and that website was about something related to what you're offering, and that person is likely interested in what you're offering because they were looking for it. And then repeat engagement. A single visit is noise, but repeated touch points across multiple sessions and content types is a strong signal of active in-market buying intent. Most companies never do this. And here's the painful irony. The most valuable signals in the buyer journey are happening right now on your website and across the web. And most cybersecurity and B2B firms are completely blind to them. What you can see without intent tools, you can see ad clicks and impressions, you can see form fills, demo requests, inbound leads that self-identified, and then you can see like actual deals that are being closed and won or closed and lost. But these are all late stage signals. By the time you see them, the buyer has already formed strong opinions about you and your competitors. So what you're missing is the anonymous company visits to your site, the competitor research happening in your category, the review site activity by in-market buyers, and then the content consumption before the first click. And this is where the real opportunity lives. It's largely invisible to firms relying solely on ad platforms for demand signals. Shift the engagement window. The strategic pivot that separates high-performing cybersecurity demand gen teams from the rest isn't a different ad platform or a bigger ad budget. It's a fundamentally different timing model. Engage sooner, identify earlier, first of all. Surface the in-market buyers using intent signals, and then engage them sooner. Reach buyers with timely intent and relevant outreach. So by shifting engagement earlier in the buyer journey, forward-thinking marketing teams gain a critical advantage. They show up before the shortlist is formed, before the opinion is set, and before the competitor gets the first meeting. This is where purpose-built systems come in. So introducing intent intelligence platforms. Platforms like Zebra Signal, which is a platform that we offer, are purpose-built to close the visibility gap between early buyer research and the moment vendors typically engage. They work by aggregating behavioral signals across the web and resolving anonymous activity back to real companies. So you can identify anonymous visitors. You can resolve anonymous website traffic to company level identities, even without a form fill. So you can actually see who's visiting your website, who they actually are, their name, their email, their phone number, their physical address, so you can send direct mail, their website address, so you can check them out. You can find out all kinds of information. And that's where we are right now, so you might say, oh, that's creepy. And especially, if you're in cybersecurity, like, oh, I don't want anyone to have my info. But the truth is, there's a lot of info out there on the web about all of us. Even if we try to limit that in some way, the fact is that's just the facts. And if your competitors can do it, so can you. So, you can capture search intent. You can monitor keywords and category level research signals across the web to identify who's actively evaluating solutions. And you can reveal in-market buyers. You can surface accounts showing strong purchase intent signals. So your team can prioritize outreach that actually matters. It matters because it's being served up at the correct time when it's relevant to that prospect. So, timing still matters even when you can see the buyer. Intent data without speed is an incomplete solution. So knowing a buyer is in market creates an opportunity. Not acting on that signal fast enough wastes it. So, you want serve up marketing to those prospective customers when they are identified. And you want to do that in a quick, timely manner. So buyer research phase, the buyer is in market, they are researching, and you identify them. There's a high receptivity window. Maybe that's 5 minutes. You identify that lead, and immediately they go into an automated marketing system where you are now serving up ads. Maybe you're serving up emails to them. Maybe you're serving up direct mail, sending them mail to their actual snail mail inbox. And all of a sudden you have a situation where your company is going to be really hard to ignore because they're suddenly seeing you everywhere. And with our platform, you can actually send Google display ads to them when they are identified as a lead. You can send connected TV ads, which means like ads in Hulu or Netflix, or the ad, you can see some video ads like when you're browsing the web and you go to watch a news video or something, an ad comes up, they are being served up ads in the places where they're looking after they have researched something that you do. So, this helps you to sort of preemptively beat out the competition because, if the competitor is waiting for a form fill on their website or somebody to respond to an ad or somebody to, take an action like that, leads or prospect mind might already be made up. And so you have the opportunity to get to that prospective buyer earlier than your competitors using this method. So, there is fundamental research showing that the faster a lead is responded to, the more likely a company is to close that deal. And because the truth is that, if the buyer is in the research phase, if they are looking for a solution, they are just going to keep going about their day, going about their research activities until they find the solution, until they make up their mind about what they do. And so, they're just going to keep on looking until they're interrupted and you get that, marketing to them and get them to raise their hand and say, hey, let's have a conversation. So you want to get that marketing to them when they are, as soon as possible when they're identified as a lead. So, say you are serving up ads to them, you identify them as an in-market buyer in the research phase, and then you maybe serve up an ad to them. Well, what happens after they respond? What we're doing for our customers is AI response. So immediately, if that person interacts with the ad and they respond, instead of it like languishing in a email inbox for 3 hours or 3 days or 3 weeks, God forbid, it gets an immediate response, and that person gets engaged in a conversation, gets their questions answered, and gets booked into a call with your sales team. So, and then if they don't book into a call, it follows up 1 hour later, 24 hours later, 48 hours later. And so the conversion rate is actually much higher because leads aren't falling through the cracks. First of all, you're only serving up ads to in-market buyers. You're only serving up marketing to in-market buyers. You're not spreading yourself thin, advertising to a bunch of people you hope might be interested. And then if someone responds, you're immediately engaging them and booking them into a call. If they don't book into a call, you're following up, you're following up, you're following up. It's relentless. And so there is no like, oh, here's all the leads we didn't follow up with this month. Or I just didn't have time, or I was at a conference, or whatever the case may be. Oh, the salesperson was on vacation. And so this is a really powerful strategy, and it's making a huge impact for companies. So this is where AI closes the loop. It identifies intent. Identifying intent is only half the equation, though. And so the other half is responding at the speed the signals demand. So AI powered engagement layers transform intent visibility into immediate, intelligent buyer conversations without waiting for a sales rep to log in. We humans are busy. We have other clients to attend to. We have conferences we're going to. We have vacations. We have children. We have to pick them up from school, whatever it is. That's not our fault. We are just human beings, and we just aren't available 24/7. We can't be. We need to sleep. We need breaks. We need lunch. So that's where instant chat response can fill in the gaps. AI can engage visitors to your website the moment they signal intent, answering questions, addressing objections, and keeping buyers on your site. They can immediately follow up. They can engage leads with an automated, personalized outreach triggered by intent signals, and reach buyers within minutes, not days, of their research activity. And then the intelligent Q&A, you can train AI to be able to answer like pretty much any question that a prospect might ask. You can train it with your knowledge base. You can train it with your website information. You can train it with FAQs. And so it actually often can do a better job than even a human salesperson. It's kind of crazy. But that's where we are at right now. It can even, I've heard voice AI salespersons that can, squash objections better than any salesperson, because, guess what? AI doesn't have emotions. AI just does its job. And we as humans, we have emotions. We don't want to upset someone. We don't want to be too pushy. And, AI is not pushy, but it just does its job. It never has a bad day. It never comes in late. It it never isn't feeling good. It never doesn't represent your business in the most positive and professional way. It's always there. It's always professional. It's always spot on, and it's always doing the job for you. And then it can also do automatic meeting booking. So high intent buyers are guided directly to calendar booking, and this removes the friction that causes drop off between interest and conversation. So, it's going to book calls for you. And that person has already indicated they're interested. And so you have a system here then that like basically is automated, just booking calls in with you for your sales team. That is getting extremely top-notch results because you're serving up the ads to people who are already interested, or you're serving up emails to people who are interested, or you're sending direct mail to people who are interested. And their response rate is going to be higher because they're already interested. And so then if they respond to your marketing, then they can be engaged by an AI that can book them into a call with a real human. And the other thing about AI is that we human beings actually tend to be more honest with AI than we are with even real other humans, because we know it's an AI. So we're like, oh, it's not judging me. It's not going to have, and it doesn't mean anything if I tell the AI something that maybe I wouldn't tell a human. So it's actually really good at collecting information from prospects, their situation and their challenge. That can be very instrumental in the sales process. So when you both, the math changes completely. So every visibility and early visibility and fast intelligent response aren't independent tactics. Together they form a compounding system that fundamentally changes your demand generation economics. So, you can have 3 times better conversations. You're engaging buyers early when they're still forming opinions, and it leads to richer, more consultative conversations than late stage clicks on ads when maybe they've already made up their minds. And the conversion rates are increasing. So buyers engage at the right moment with the right message. You're engaging them with relevant information at the right time. You're fishing where the fish are. And this results in significantly higher rates of conversion than cold inbound leads from paid media alone. And then you're generating predictable pipeline. So when your system identifies and engages in market buyers systematically, your pipeline stops being a guessing game and becomes a measurable, repeatable output. Early visibility and fast response equals better conversations, higher conversion rates, and pipeline you can actually forecast with confidence. So where were we and where are we going? What is the old model? What is what a lot of people are still doing? And what is the new model? This is not an incremental shift. It's a fundamental redesign of how demand generation works, replacing hope-based marketing with a signal-driven systematic approach. So instead of putting out ads to people we hope are going to be interested, we're putting out ads and marketing to people who we know are interested. And when we do that, we're serving up marketing to people who are in market. We're fishing where the fish are. So the old model is spend, click, hope. You're paying for traffic at peak competition, and you're waiting for buyers to self-identify, and you're competing on the most expensive keywords, and you're hoping the form fill turns into pipeline. And then you're repeating it until the budget runs out. Or, you're just dumping more money into the budget, hoping that it will yield better results and more leads. And then the new model is you see, you engage, and you convert. You identify in-market buyers early. You ink them before the competitors know they exist. And then you respond at AI-powered speed. You convert through relevance and timing. You are serving the marketing up to them when it's relevant, when they care, when it's something that's important to them right now. And then you're building a predictable, scalable system. You can build this into a scalable, automated system that just on autopilot continues to generate leads for you, generate booked appointments, so that you have a steady stream of conversations going on that yield results and conversions and new business and help you meet your targets month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year. Now, if you would like to see exactly how this works, we've packaged the full strategic framework into a practical training designed specifically for cybersecurity marketing leaders who are tired of unpredictable pipeline and rising ad costs. So we have a training called How to Find Your Next 20 Clients Without Chasing Cold Leads or Paying a Fortune for Ads, and a step-by-step breakdown of the intent visibility plus AI response system used by the fastest growing cybersecurity firms. If you'd like to get a hold of that complimentary training, comment below with the word pipeline, and I'll make sure that you get access to the full training. So you'll get the full playbook. And, if you find us then we can have, a conversation. Or if you'd like to have a conversation, just let me know in the chat and we can hop on a call, or in the comments, excuse me. All right, so a little quick recap here. So here's a core strategic insight distilled into 4 principles every cybersecurity or B2B marketing leader should carry into their next planning conversation. Ad costs are rising structurally. This isn't a temporary market condition. The supply-demand dynamics of digital advertising in cybersecurity mean costs will continue to climb. Your strategy must adapt. Buyers are researching earlier than you think. The buyer journey starts long before the first click. Vendors who engage early, or vendors who engage only at the click, are entering the race in the final lap. And traffic has limits. Volume-based metrics obscure the real problem. More clicks without better buyer fit and timing alignment doesn't produce more play. And then visibility changes everything. When you can't see who's researching before they raise their hand, you gain the ability to engage earlier, more relevantly, and at a fraction of the cost of paid media. So, being able to see who's researching gives you that early advantage. It gives you the ability to meet interested buyers earlier in their decision-making process, where you can influence their decision-making process. I'm here every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time, and this is going to be a standing session for marketing leaders and demand generation teams who want to stay ahead of the curve on buyer behavior, pipeline strategy, and the systems that drive smarter growth. We're going to talk about buyer behavior, how modern B2B buyers and cybersecurity research evaluate and decide, and how to show up at every stage of that journey. Pipeline strategy, tactical and strategic frameworks for building demand generation programs that produce predictable, measurable pipeline. And smarter growth systems, the tools, platforms, and processes, including AI and intent data, that the best performing marketing teams are deploying right now. So again, if this conversation has been for you, if you've enjoyed this discussion, please drop a comment, or like, or whatever options there are now, the video, and share with your network. And this helps us to engage better as a community, and also lets me know that this material was useful for you. Or if you have a comment, allows me to come back and answer your questions so that you can get more value. All right. And again, my name's Laura Camrath. I am founder and CEO of Zebra Marketing, and we help cybersecurity, IT, and B2B companies to generate predictable pipeline with modern, innovative marketing strategies. So your buyers are already out there. Right now, companies in your ideal customer profile are searching for solutions, comparing vendors, reading reviews, and forming opinions without ever announcing themselves. They are researching. They're quietly, methodically, and with more information at their fingertips than any buyer generation before them. They're out there looking for solutions. They're looking for solutions like you offer. And they're comparing. Your competitors are on the list. Whether you are too depends on whether you showed up early enough to matter, whether you showed up earlier in their decision-making process when you are still able to influence that process. And they're deciding. The shortlist gets formed, preferences get locked in, budgets get approved, and this all happens before the first sales call. By the time they get to the first sales call, they already may be thinking they know what they want to do. So this is your opportunity to get ahead of the horse or get the cart in front of the horse. I don't know. This is the opportunity to get ahead of the decision making process before the buyer has already made up their mind, so that you have the opportunity to influence the sale and win the business. So the question isn't whether the demand exists. The question is, can you see it and can you act on it fast enough to win the deal? All righty. So, all right. Um, there I am. All right. Well, thanks for joining me today. I hope that this has been a valuable conversation for you. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you got some something out of it, and you're maybe thinking about this for your business and what this means for today's B2B and cybersecurity companies and how we fill our pipelines and gain business. So I hope you'll join me again next week and tune in, like my LinkedIn page. My LinkedIn page is Zebra, ZBRA, Smarter Marketing, Wild Results. And I look forward to staying in touch with you all here over LinkedIn and building our community here and having these valuable conversations about our sales, marketing, and pipelines so we can all grow our business and be more successful and build the companies that we desire to build. So wishing you great success, and I will see you all soon.